You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Small Business Talk with Jerry, part of SBR Productions. Today, Craig Holschlag is going to co-host with me.
Good to be back, everybody. Good to be back.
Help us. And today, we have Jerry and Rebecca with us. I'm going to let them introduce themselves a bit. They're with Reliable Contractors out of Rochester here. They're also members of SBR Group. But Rebecca, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll move over to Jerry.
Sounds great. Well, I'm our Vice President of New Business Development at Reliable Contractors, and I'll let Jerry get into a little more of the company history, but my main role is helping grow the business and the community engagement piece. We have a lot of great contractors across the Rochester area, but really getting out there and networking and having those baseline conversations that start the seeds of a project is really where my passion lies. And so that's what I bring forward. And we put a lot of thought into how we transitioned into acquiring Reliable, but also when was good timing for me to come on board and how it is to work with your spouse. So there's some fun dynamics and growth
challenging.
That all happens. And so we always keep an open mind, and we always want to bring innovation into it as well. And Jerry and I are very similar in our principles and our values. But we also have kind of some yin and yang in our skill sets. So that's been really, really fun and rewarding. So I'll turn it over to Jerry.
Yeah, well, great. Thank you, Rebecca. So we have been together for a little over 6 years now, and personally, and then 2021, we came across an opportunity to acquire Reliable Contractors from someone who had already been in business for 22 years, had it established. I've been in Rochester since 1990 doing design and architectural design, and then general contracting and project management.
Was architectural design your
That's where I started.
Okay, wow.
I got a drafting degree from Minneapolis School of Drafting, so I learned how to put lines on paper, not actually design anything, but make it look nice when I did.
Straight lines.
Straight lines.
Right.
Rulers, measurements to scale. We had all that stuff down.
That involves math, I bet.
Yeah, came to work down here. I know most people say I've never used math since high school, but no, you do in drafting and design and geometry and trigonometry and some of those kind of things.
Oof, yuck.
But not very often. So since 1990, we started actually as a draftsman at Fullerton Lumber. There was a small company up on the north side of town. Fullerton Lumber's a lumber yard, but Wayne & Wayne Architectural Drafting was who I started with, brought me down to town here. Just doing home design for the likes of like Bigelow and Bob DeWitt's and those kind of production homes, kind of putting out a bunch of stuff like that. Went out on my own in 1993, I think.
Yes, great year.
When they
it's when I graduated high school.
Nice. The Waynes of Wayne & Wayne split up, and I realized that they had a yin and a yang to themselves, that I was like, I needed to not work for either of them independently if they're splitting. And so I started my own company, Aspen Architectural Design, that turned into a home building, Aspen Homes, as for a little while. I don't know if we need the whole history right now, but just kind of kept going through that. Did Aspen Homes.
So did you own Aspen Homes? That was your company?
I did, yeah.
It's still around, isn't it?
It is not any longer. I partnered with a gentleman who was a realtor in town here because I had bought my first home from him in 1992, I think it was.
Okay.
And I had this opportunity. Someone said, "Hey, could you design a house to fit on this lot? It's a weird tuck under lot, big slope." And we own the development, but we can't sell these lots. And so I designed a home for them. And they said, "Well, how would you like to build it?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know how to build it." Like, I build it. I grew up on a farm, and we have a ton of stuff like that. And so I called this realtor friend and said, "Hey, do you guys have contacts for me that I could help put together a team to build this home?" And he did. And so we made some connections. We started building the first home, and before I had shingles on it, he had it sold.
Wow.
And so I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Hey, how would you like to partner with this?" And he's like, "I bet we could do a bunch of this." And it did. It got out of control. In like the first 12 months, we built 16 houses. And I was no longer designing and managing. I was trying to figure out, how am I going to get this done? And he was trying, and so it's like, so then I kind of lost. I'm an attention to detail guy. And so I was trying to find a draftsman who could design my projects for me, and I'd go through a homeowner and get the whole thing established and hand it to a draftsman and say, "Okay, now finish it," and it would turn out completely different than I was expecting. because it's kind of a metamorphosis during a kind of thing.
Sure,
You can do
yeah.
you can do a preliminary design, but as you're going, you're like, oh, I could do this, and I talked to that person about this, and I can fit that in over here, and I can do this, and so it started out residentially completely.
Wow.
And then in 1994, I went to work for Construction Collaborative in town here. Hal Henderson, he is an architect, had his own business, does a commercial general contractor in architecture, and kind of went to work with him at an agreement that between him and HGA Architects, I would they'd keep me busy 40 hours a week, and so I kind of back and forth, and so
Sure.
so brought. Construction Collaborative into the electronic age of designing with AutoCAD by taking things from HGA and from what I had learned, and so they had gotten into that. So spent several years with them, and then Hal Henderson decided to sell Construction Collaborative and go to full time with HGA Architects, and I decided to stay full time with Construction Collaborative just for the opportunity there. And so I became a designer, project manager, did most of the architectural design, did a lot of the project management for projects, and a lot of commercial and residential
Okay,
projects.
so I was wondering, if that's where the kind of the commercial
yeah,
area
that's where
started.
the more commercial experience started there.
What do you like about commercial over residential?
Yeah, they're very different.
I can imagine.
I bet.
Residential is kind of cool because you're involving yourself in somebody's life. You know, you're like, I'm doing something to change something for them personally. Where commercial work is a little more impersonal, I guess, where you're following the plans and getting it done. Being goals on budget, and is it the right paint color? Okay, fine. You know, you know, whatever was the specification, did you follow that? Where it's not necessarily like residential. It's like there's more emotion to it. There's more personal connection to. If I was working in your house and you wanted a bathroom model, you'd be mad if I, you know, where commercial's a little more forgiving, maybe.
Sure.
But at the same time, I got to imagine that, like in residential, well, hey, I would like to move the kitchen from there over to there. Can you just make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's a lot of that kind of stuff, which you probably don't have to deal with in commercial world, right?
Yeah, probably pretty much. You know, it's like most of the commercial is there. It's kind of an odd thing in Rochester or in the state of Minnesota, I guess, even where as a residential contractor, I need to be licensed with the state of Minnesota, but I don't have to be to do the design. But the opposite is in commercial. You have to be licensed to do the design, but you don't have to be licensed to do the construction.
What?
So they put all the responsibility on the responsibility on the designer in commercial, where the architects, the engineers, they have to make sure everything works, and then
you just get to build it?
I just get to build it, but then everything is specified to the detail, basically, in a plan for commercial work. Where residential, I tried that when I first got back into residential in 2000. I'd been in commercial for 8, 6, 7 years, and I did a set of plans with, okay, this type of carpet, and this type of thing, and they're like, well, we went to carpet one, and they said, we don't have that kind of carpet, because everybody has their own brand at that point, where commercial was, everybody buys from one company, this is the exact spec, and you can get that from any carpet guy you want to go to.
Wow.
And so residential, I'll have each, I can go to Jungies Flooring, or I can go to Hillers, or I can go to Carpet One, and they all have the same carpet, but they might have a different manufacturer, a different spec, or a different whatever it is. So. But yeah, so it's very different between the two worlds. Like them both. Now we started with Reliable as all commercial. That's all Gary Nordine, who owned the company before us, did. And that was where most of my experience with the past few years that I'd spent as a subcontractor with Construction Collaborative. I did project management design for them, but I was not actually an employee with them. What was I about to say? My brain just went dead.
How you like when Reliable came into the picture and how you were approached, because there were several people
and
that were interested.
Mostly commercial, yeah. So it was all commercial with when we bought the company, and then over the last couple of years, like past clients that I had as Integrity Custom Homes, I did a remodel for someone in 2010, and they just called me last year and it's like, hey, you did our whole main floor and our basement. Can you finish the upper floor now? We want to make all the trim and everything match. And so like, well, sure, we'll do that for you. And then we just had some nice projects. We actually have a new project that we finished in March that is going to be the remodeler's home tour in September here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
But on the Salem Sound Lake across from the History Center out there, very unique properties out there, because there's nobody has lake property in Rochester except if you're out there.
Except them. There's nice big homes out there.
Yeah, and so this one, there's a section on the lake there that has single level slab on grade homes that are great for people looking towards that retirement age, things like that. and with a lake view and the amazing things. And so last year we had the opportunity where I did a design in 2000 for someone who was a realtor in town here, and they did all the work themselves. And so I didn't have the opportunity to do that, and was not doing residential at that time either. But now they referred me to someone who bought a lot out there and wanted to do the same thing that they did, where we gutted the entire house, exposed all the studs, all the rafters, moved rooms around, kitchen to the outside of the house, like I said, things like that. And when they introduced me to them, it's like someone that I had experience from the commercial world already, and they knew me from there too, where I'd done remodeling for them to convert a oil change store into the batteries plus bulbs up on Northwest Rochester. So
the one on 37th?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So kind of a no-brainer there. We're like, okay, this guy recommended for residential. I know him from here. Let's do it. So so we finished that one in March. Beautiful project. And so we are showing that one off here in September 21st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday, whatever that is.
Yeah, coming right up.
So has like word of mouth seems like has been kind of your main
pretty
advertising, right? I mean, you just know. I mean, when you're in the business that long, you know so many people.
Yeah. And I think that's where this new yin and yang thing is coming in with us here right now too, right? Because so I had Integrity Custom Homes from 2000 to 2015, doing residential remodeling. Did a couple new homes in the middle of that too, just by request. Never built any spec homes or anything, but always my brain was, well, the phone will just keep ringing, right? And someone will call me, someone will refer me, someone will do this, and that didn't pan out so well at the end of that. 2008 and 9 when the economy went crazy, and it's like suddenly my 3 clients I had pretending were like, well, I just lost half my retirement income. I'm not spending money remodeling my house. It's like, and so that kind of dried up, and then I went back into commercial as a subcontractor again to another company who was doing commercial construction. So things changed very much so, and I lost my train of thought.
I love
hate
it,
that. But
as you tell the story, your glasses are fogging up, and every day I'm selling him on the value of continual sales and marketing and how important that is, because his reputation and word of mouth has absolutely been truly a business growth component that he's always been able to rely on, because he is so detail oriented yet so down to earth and so approachable. But now owning the business together, I never want to take that for granted, and my background's all up here, sales and marketing. And so I'm still sales pitching him constantly on the merits of what that can do as far as scaling a business.
So we took over Reliable in 2021, and we had that conversations. We had the thing. I know her experience. I know that she is a consummate salesman. She can sell anything, and she knows about marketing. She does stuff. But I knew, well, the phone's going to ring.
Right. and so, it always did.
And it always did, and had that. And it was like, but it's like Integrity kind of quit doing its thing, and then I was Reliable. So we made the agreement that, hey, let's invest in this company. Let's buy this company. Let's do this. We can do this together. And then
I thought he was going to say no. He was going to sleep on it. And I thought, you know what, this is just going to go away. Yeah. And then the next day he woke up and he says, we're doing it. I said, are you sure? He said, we are doing this.
So were you on board, right away? Or were you kind of, because...
I thought, I assumed I was going to be, because I was like, you have to have sales and marketing.
She was No, I'm saying on board with buying it right away. I mean, like, was that like...
I was.
Probably I think we got a little bit different interpretations, probably, where it's like, because then we got into it. Now we own the company. We agreed with all the concepts. Let's buy this company. Let's do this, because it's an established company with a great track record, great reliability. It's like great reputation, right? They had, it was 20 years and great experience and kind of a built-in customer base. I had competed against them without knowing it for 20 years and had never even heard of them. So they did the same type of work that I did over the last 20 years, but I'd never actually had to compete against them, where they just had their own niche.
Sure.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to compete against the people I'm leaving now either. I'm just going to take this over. So we kind of had that anticipation, but so she's like, okay, well, what can I do? I'm like, well, I can't pay you. So what can I do?
I'm out. Well, love you, honey, but I'm out.
Talk to you later.
That's right. We have no income at the moment. We're buying this new company. We have nothing, but so then it was kind of that establishing. It was like, can you help me with books? No, like that. Okay, well, let's just do this. And so for the first 2 years, it was great. It was like the phone did ring, which we kept going, kept doing the thing. And now we kind of got to that point where now it's like, okay, I know your value, and I know the things that you've been talking about. How do we get you involved here? You got her out of the corporate world now, so she finally stepped out of that. So now she's at least working now on all this business development stuff for us, where it's like, yeah, now we. Well, I still don't know if I'm paying you, but but we're establishing the business here, and getting that moving. So,
yeah, no, definitely. In my eyes, when he said, "Okay, this is a go," I'm thinking we're going to scale this. We're going to get super competitive. We're going to drill down our niche of this market and own it. And I'm thinking,
we're the next Cross
like this extremely competitive, aggressive growth. Rochester's poised historically to just let's go seize this. This is our moment. And he's like, "Can you do QuickBooks?" And yes, I can, for the record, but I hate numbers. I mean, he is really good at details and numbers.
Yeah.
I am not. I'm a true salesperson where I'm high energy, I'm squirrely, a little ADHD, and I'm like, no, I'm going to just, especially if you're not paying me, no, I'm going to cry
That's exactly
in your books, and I don't want to do that.
how I approach my life. You're a numbers guy, right? We talk
You were
about.
going to say nerd.
I mean, you're a bit of a
gonna say
nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Nerds.
I heard that, Craig. I heard that. Yeah.
I heard it.
No numbers. But I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like you throw numbers in front of me, I'm like, I'm out. Like, for SBR, I have to do our weekly Rube deal. So I'm like, what the hell is this stuff? I gotta add 20 to 20 and get
Somebody
45.
That's right. Somebody make this easy for Craig. Come on.
Right.
Yeah. I feel that way with numbers too, completely. And around this time, he acquired Reliable. I said, well, then I'm going to keep working. And so I took an executive leadership role as a VP of sales and marketing for a company. And it was a really challenging, fun 2 years, but I had to get really comfortable with numbers and own them. And so I'm going, okay, I'm at this point, I'm just going to do it. But at the same time, I'm picturing these two paths not necessarily joining. And I'm like, we got to scale this. And I'm still selling him hardcore on the idea of sales and marketing infused into this business plan and scaling this company and growing, but also having joy in it. Like, he has so many amazing skills that I wish I had.
Right.
And have
Like
a
he
reputation.
can swing hammers and fix stuff.
I like demolition, but he's
I could demo stuff, but you want me to put it back together, I'm out.
Yeah. And he's great with design and just innovation, too. Like, we've had customers, for example, we had out in, help me out here, Casson.
Mm-hmm.
There was a family-owned business, the Fit Loon, that opened a second location under a different name in Casson.
in Rochester, and so they want to open a new shop in Casson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they were trying to stay in budget, but they wanted a certain look. So I asked Jerry one day, I called him up, I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm picking up this stuff at a bowling alley. I'm like, what? And he, on auction, saw this 1920s bowling alley lane being liquidated. Picked it up in the cities, and it was just amazing hardwood, just beautiful and crafted.
Amazing butcher block
counter
countertops
space.
for the bars.
Wow.
And so it had character instantly in history. It kept them within budget. They were extremely happy with it. It looked amazing, and I just thought that's really genius. That's kind of some of the boutique style contracting and innovation that he offers, and you don't get that if you just go to a big contractor.
Right.
You're going to get a building.
Yes,
Right.
we primarily do commercial.
You're going to get something sterile.
Exactly,
And,
yeah, but we can personalize that too, and I think he has such a gift for that. So I get really excited about that because I'm like, there's so many stories to tell there to connect with the community and help small business owners, but also large business owners. People are hungry for that too, and you don't necessarily have that experience with a general contractor.
Right.
So
I think in Rochester too, I can't speak for other places, but I mean, people like kind of different. They want different stuff. They don't want the chains, right? I mean, you hear all the time people, when it comes to restaurants, we don't need another chain. Let's get something. Right. Let's get something different. So I'll kind of reference Sammy, right? With she's got Bebop, she's got Otori, she's got Mezzanine. Oh, I say it wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
So like, those are all four different things, and people love just different things. Like the Castle when that came into town, right? I mean, I know it didn't last, unfortunately, but so you can go to Applebee's anywhere. You can go, you can go somewhere. But if you can create a space, a commercial space, be it a restaurant or something else, that's a little bit different off the cuff, I just think it speaks volumes. To your ability, but to the customer saying, I don't want. To your point, I don't want a sterile building.
Right.
Sure. I mean, I can get that anywhere.
Use the Castle as a great example. The Castle didn't have Rebecca. The Castle had Jerry.
Yeah.
Didn't have Rebecca.
Yeah.
So I went in there. I loved it. And it was terrible when it didn't last. but they didn't have a Rebecca that was out there, pounding the pavement, beating the bushes, saying, "You guys got to come look at this. You got to come see this." Because when I would go in there, it was expensive. It was, but you would go in, and the people that you would see were there the last time I was there. It was like you have regulars. It's like, and it's great to have in a bar, in a restaurant, it's great to have regulars, but regulars don't pay the bills 100%.
Especially not in Rochester.
No,
Yeah.
you have to, especially if you're a higher end facility, you need that new infusion of clients all the time. You need someone with energy that can go out and draw them in. But again, to have all the energy and draw them into a humdrum place, that doesn't work either. You have to have both sides of this.
Absolutely. Now, keep in mind, if Applebee's corporate, though, calls us tonight, we will build their
Oh, for
direct
sure.
Applebee's.
Absolutely. You're going to build it.
We will build chains.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they will remember working with us, for sure,
Yeah.
when all is said and done.
So you
But,
can do sterile if you need
yeah, we can do sterile and do it well still. But I think that's
Applebee's, if you
something-
tune into this
right.
podcast, listen, just
you
look at
can call,
Reliable
you can
Contractors.
text anytime,
That's right.
day or night.
Yeah. We did have a wonderful experience working with the Powers family and
Yeah.
doing the well downtown.
Yeah,
last
I wanted
year.
to talk about
and
that
it's like,
because
and that was an amazing building, and it's just really unfortunate that it didn't go as planned. I guess for the
I never made it in when it was open. So I just, but I see pictures. Of it. I mean, it was what you did inside is amazing
It
because
is
I was in there
definitely
when
no
it was
longer
Dooley's.
Dooley's.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember it as Dooley's, and I saw the
Took the
pictures.
Doolies right out of Doolies.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful space.
Yeah.
Sammy and I would go there for lunch, and beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful in there.
And
So
we
unique.
were not the architect on the plans, but I guarantee you I spent more hours doing design for details than the architects did
So,
on the entire plan. So
talk about that. Like, I mean, in what way? Like, I mean, because it's like you said, in a commercial space, you've got the architectural plan and everything's called out, and you just build it. But you obviously had a little bit of leeway. Say, hey, listen, I think we should try. Look at what do you think of this? Because I think this will work out.
Sure,
work out great.
And I think so. Architects are usually on a budget. They charge you a certain amount based on percentage of what they think it's charging cost, and they're quite often are lacking in detail. So here's a bar, which is you've seen the bar. It's a pretty crazy details of things, and it's like, and then we have to figure out how to build it because it's basically they kind of just throw a little 2D elevation up and say, "What do you think of that?" That's what it wants to look like, and it's like, "Great, how are you going to build it?" So,
Right.
So it's like, and how's that going to support this? And how are we going to build this big floating cloud up above the bar that has all this
That's so
lighting
cool.
and
Yeah.
Floating cloud.
We got to sneak you in there.
I was like, can we get
and
in
you
there
have to go
somehow?
see this.
Well, I think it'll be open for business within a month again here. They
Yeah.
actually signed a lease with a restaurant out of the city.
That's what I heard, yeah.
It's called Lumi, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I hadn't heard that.
So they're leasing it out to a new restaurant to expand their footprint, I guess, in southern Minnesota here.
Good. I'll have to go down and see it. And I'll be like, I know the guy that built the bar.
Yeah.
This is
And they're
kick
not-
ass.
and
Check out the green wall too. It's really beautiful. There's a live green wall, and then in the back left corner, and I hope they keep this. We call it the baller booth.
The baller booth,
Just
yes.
amazing. Like the
Listen,
table you want.
I
in
wanna
downtown
go
Rochester.
sit
That's
at
where
the
we'll
baller
be
booth.
sitting. That's
Yeah.
right.
When it opens, the new place, as long as they keep the baller booth, let's all go out to eat
Oh,
there. And we
yeah.
will sit
Hell yes.
and enjoy that.
Yeah.
But the details, just the on-site engineering of just the finer part of it coming together. I mean, you guys were there some days 10, 12 hours, 14, 15 hours going in on weekends. And it was so amazing to watch it come together. It was magical.
Were you part? Because I think you weren't part fully real with doing your job with Reliable
Correct.
then, were you? Right, it was
No,
kind of like part time, right?
I just recently came over in February. I left my corporate position, so
Oh, that recent.
Yeah,
very
wow.
very recent. Yeah, so I was kind of doing a little bit of the social media, and then just redid the website, which we're still working on SEO and stuff. But since February, that's been a pretty significant shift for me because I would just kind of moonlight here and there. So yeah.
Honey, can you do this? Yes, I guess.
Take over my LinkedIn account.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the delegation is fine, but some of the needs that have come up as we added on a full-time employee and stuff. Some of the needs I'm like, yeah, that's not my wheelhouse. Like I'm like my background is sales and marketing, but I in business really have experience in just about every role except the accounting portion. And when you're a small business, you definitely need an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a good one, not a rookie.
And a,
Right.
and a good one.
And
So neither of us are actually the accountant.
Yeah,
I know how to
exactly.
enter a few
Outsource
things,
that.
and we have a great accountant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was one of the things when we looked at, okay, how are we going to do this? That was something we agreed to right away. Let's, since I wasn't going to be that person, we're going to find that person. And we've had really good, careful decision making.
That's good.
Knock on wood.
That's good.
And that route.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like for me, that's my degree is in accounting.
Right.
And
Nerd.
I just, yeah, and I mean, I hate it. Just hate it. But I was always good with numbers, so I thought when I was younger, it's like, well, go where it's easy.
Sure.
I mean, be successful because it won't be hard. And then you go in there and just hate it. And it's like, ugh. So I'm very critical of my accountant now, but I do a lot of it myself as far as, like I said, QuickBooks. Use something like that, input everything, get it in, and then it's like at the end of the month, just turn it over. It's like just walk away. It's like, just tell me where to sign. You go through it, you make sure it's right, and keep me out of jail. And that's the big thing. It's like,
Exactly.
because I'll write off everything. It just it's like, well, that's not advertising. Oh, people see it, and it has my name on it. I think it's advertising. It's like,
I love it.
Yeah, and so I have an accountant out of Preston, and he's been with me for almost 20 years, and he's amazing. And he's not afraid to go, no, you're not doing that. You are not doing that. So we have a system. I have a folder, a file that when I was an accountant, I would always go into a place, and I thought it was so funny because QuickBooks actually went to this, I don't know, a few years ago. But I would always put a miscellaneous folder or file for them. I was like, if you're not 100% sure where that expense goes,
Ask your accountant.
Miscellaneous.
just put it miscellaneous. When I come out at the end of the month, the first thing I do is grab that, and I'll divvy all that stuff up where it belongs. Then I'll be your accountant. But I said that first job is always that. And the company I worked for, they were just like, you can't do that. You can't do that. I'm like, why not? According to the government, the IRS, there's no such thing as miscellaneous. I understand that. And nothing's ever going to end.
Stay there.
Yeah, nothing ever stays there. It gets put there because otherwise I have all these business owners who are all way smarter than me. Just ask them. And they put it wherever they feel it belongs. And then they're like me, because they'll be like, well, that's advertising. Well, that I can write off. That's advertising. It's, and so now I have to go look for all this
What are you
stuff.
doing with this boat, sir?
Yeah, you'd
Exactly.
be amazed. We keep that stuff out of the marketing budget, but I've worked for many companies,
Oh, yeah.
including very recently, where everything went in my marketing budget, and I'm not taking responsibility for those non-marketing expenses legit in there.
Right.
Absolutely not.
And if you don't have that miscellaneous area,
Yeah.
then the accountant has to go look for it, and he's not going to find everything. Which that's not good at the end of the day. When the audit comes, it's definitely not.
They
good.
will find it.
Yeah.
They will find it. Right. They will find
They're
it.
the
So-
super nerds, the IRS guys.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that for me, it's an accountant. I can't agree more. Accountant is so important to have a good one, and you got to give them the ability to look around there. So you've got to trust them. Besides being good at what they do, they have to be trustworthy.
It's kind of a sainthood role. It really is,
It is.
when
It
you
is.
find the right person. And Jerry, you are proof that an accountant can become an excellent entrepreneur. So I'm
thank
kind
you.
of intrigued
Thank
by
you.
that a lot. So
God, don't.
Despite being a
listen,
nerd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, despite being a nerd. We got,
Or a numbers guy.
Let's not proof Jerry up too much. Right?
Big head over there. I love it.
I mean, yeah, great, Jerry. You're an entrepreneur. Awesome.
I
Good
picked
times.
you.
Well, that was just Well,
So-
remains to be seen if that was a smart
We'll
move
see
or
if it
not.
works or not.
Yeah, right. We'll see. Yeah, give us some time, my
Give
friend.
it some time.
I love that. I got a funny little story to share. If anyone out there is listening that is married to a contractor, whether you work together or not, I'm going to
Oh, this
warn
would be
you
good.
of something here. So,
Where's the meat?
You want to?
you might need to edit some of this, but let's get down and dirty here.
Oh no!
The sneeze button.
You own everything you say here. We're not editing a thing.
Right.
Jerry's going to get a little nervous here, but we're a blended family, so we got married 7 years ago, and we were both at a stage in our lives where we knew what really mattered to us and to our families, and knew ourselves well enough to made some pretty rapid decisions. And so I quickly learned as I was getting to know Jerry better, we'd drive anywhere around the area and he'd be like, hey, on this project I did that, or I built that, or this building that, and it was just really, really neat. And I thought, wow, this is a really neat side of him to see. Fast forward about 5-6 years. And I'm in the car one day and I'm scoping out some potential projects for Reliable, and I see this really ugly building on the north end of Rochester, just eyesore, high visibility. So I call him and I'm like, Jerry. I'm like, I don't know if I should say the name of the business.
Yeah,
I don't
go
want
for it. They don't exist anymore.
Okay, so it was the Hollywood Video building up on 37th Street. And I'm like, Jerry, this building needs help. It's so ugly. Oh. And he's pretty quiet, like unusually quiet. He's like, I designed and built that building. And I'm like, you are kidding me right now. So,
listen, he can't be perfect every building.
right? He had a mulligan.
Right.
You know, he had a mulligan in there, but I found it, and he handled it quite well.
So now we have kind of a saying every now and then now that we're like, well, not everything's a Hollywood Video.
This phrase
That's
comes
awesome.
up in our business and in our relationship constantly, and it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So.
Right. What have been the hurdles? So we talked. I had the question today in our meeting because I did my presentation at SBR, and like code, right? I mean, the code in Rochester is out of control. Mm-hmm. It's only gotten worse, from my understanding. Talking to a few of the contractors that I know, Pat Eckert's one of them, another guy that I work with on occasion. What are your hurdles, but what are your hurdles, Rebecca, when you're talking to potential clients? Say, well, this is what we want to do, and do you ever have to come in like, that ain't gonna work, ain't gonna happen?
But there's got to be times where it's like, you can't afford that in Olmsted County.
Well, that's a good point.
Honestly,
Yeah,
that's-
Could get into that
That's,
too.
that's
Yep.
got to be. That's got to come up.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So
Yeah.
Minnesota's kind of notorious for having one of the toughest building codes in the nation, and then Rochester tacks onto that.
right. Yeah, it's even worse.
Yeah, so there's extra layers. I think there was a big community talk thing a few years ago here where they're trying to how do we streamline this, because this is not working for any builders here in town, and so there's a lot of forums and out there and things that were going around trying to improve that. I think when they switched to being community development in Rochester, I think things have gotten better with that, where it's more a process. Everything's online now. I don't have to print a plan, bring them 3 sets, do the thing, and they get handed around through the desk, through either department. So now
Snail
everybody
mail.
can look at it at the same time because it's all digital.
Sure.
So that has helped a lot there. The code is still tough, and code
I
is
say, but still-
code is code.
Yeah,
and
the things
so,
you have to have.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
can't have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and some of that is seems ridiculous at times, but it's like, well, somebody fell off something at one point, and that's why this code is here, and so there's a lot of that. Or accessibility codes are a big one right now, where making sure that spaces are available to anybody who and
Sure.
making sure that
Accessibility, I
works.
get, but some of the things that I taught, and I'm not a builder, so I have no idea. But I've talked with another contractor in town that I've worked on other sign projects with, and he was telling me he was working on a project, and the wall they took over an existing space next door to their to their current business, but I don't know. The city said the wall wasn't right, but so they had to redo the wall and prop up the wall and take the wall down, put the wall back up. I don't freaking know what the hell they're talking about. But he's like, it extended their project by 3 months.
And he's just seeing dollar signs.
Yes,
The whole
yes.
time. Yeah.
And he's like, it makes no sense. It's downtown, right? But he's like, it makes no sense that we had to do this because it literally changed nothing. But the code was the code, and that's what they had to come up with.
Well, and the expense, it magnifies, because it's not just that you have to hire the contractor longer.
Sure.
You're buying more material. You're not in business. I mean, so the loss on top of the expense, that loss is an expense also.
And that's got to come back with your experience. Like you talked about, I don't know if we were recording or not, but you talked about earlier was, your bid, you're not the cheapest.
Right.
And there's reasons why. You'll be able to find contractors to do their project for less when it
Maybe less. Well,
well,
seems like less up front.
less.
Right, I'd say they'll quote less.
Yes.
Put it that way.
Right.
I deal with that at Broadway Car Care a ton.
Yeah.
People will call me, how much are brakes? And it's like, well, typical job is pads and rotors. Well, I don't think I need rotors. Okay, I can give you the price for just pads, but I'm telling you, you probably need rotors. I mean,
Yeah,
just,
I've got the experience, and that's
right.
what it's like.
And if you don't, we won't charge you for them, obviously, but when you do need them, and the guy down the street quoted you $100 less, then he charges you $85 per rotor to put, and now that $100 you saved isn't savings anymore. You just spend another $70 on top to get the same job I quoted. But I'm being honest with you, and being upfront about the extras, and that's that's.
And Craig, we had talked about that a little bit. That was off mic before you actually got here, Jerry. Where it was like, been doing this in Rochester really for 34 years of some fashion, design or building or project managing, and you know what it takes to do a project. Just like you with your brakes and your rotors, it's like 99% of the time I'm going to need to do the rotors. So here's what I'm going to quote you. Where I can look at a plan and say, well, I don't see that on the plan, but I know that I'm going to have to do that to get this project done. Right. So I include it. My bids are my bids unless you say, hey, let's add 5 extra windows. Okay, well, that's a change. I'll change that. Yeah. It's not on the plan. But if my bid is my bid, we had talked about an experience that I had years ago when I was doing just residential construction where I lost a project. I bid $250,000. Another contractor bid $230,000 for a project. And within 30 days of them awarding the project to the other contractor, the homeowner was calling me saying, I am so sorry I didn't go with you. I've already gotten $50,000 for the change orders for things I know you told me you included in your bid. And it's like, so it's like, how do you compare that? We even talked about, city and county jobs here where I've bid on in the past where they actually have to take, because it's public money, we have to take the lowest bidder. And people learn how to read the plans and say, that's not the plan, that's not the plan, that's the plan. I didn't include it. And so they can get the project because they were the lowest bidder and the city has to award it to them. But how many change orders, what are the final results? We thought maybe that'd be a lucrative business we could find to go in and audit these projects. Maybe well, look at this. You said you took out this, but you spent $30,000 more than what you told the other person would.
Right. And if just being the lowest bidder to get the project is your sales pitch, you're probably not the best contractor.
Absolutely correct.
I mean, if somebody can prove me wrong, bring it out there. But code requires a lot of excellent communication with the client, and I think in the contracting world, as I come into this from other industries, the urgency and communication that's in the contracting culture is so radically different.
You talked about it this morning.
Sometimes the idea of urgency and other industries' ideas of urgencies don't match up. So when you're dealing with a business owner, they're so skilled in everything, but the communication and the consistency in that relationship and that constant communication really helps prevent a lot of things. And when there is a code issue that comes up, I think Jerry does a really good job of walking through it. The other kind of fun thing is if we get, too code bothered here in Rochester, we can get some great projects in the surrounding counties. So we did, the
USDA office in Preston, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And,
you
talked about County.
And I didn't even have to get a permit.
This was the best. So we made our date night. We had to go to the county town hall meeting in Fillmore
That sounds
County.
like a party.
He's like, get in the truck, let's go. And I'm like, all right. And I'm thinking this is going to be a long meeting. And he had to ask for a variance on this property that they purchased because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the basic gist of the story was the farmer next door was 50 yards on the property planting corn and rotating crops for the last 20 years and didn't even realize it was part of this other parcel. And so there was a discrepancy in the Fillmore County plotting.
Yeah, what their record showed as here's the property line, so we based our addition off of that, and then we actually got a survey done afterwards because he wanted to put an additional building on the property and found out they weren't even close to where the farm fields were and the people were mowing lawns.
Did it get resolved easily?
It was so great. We go sit in the meeting. We're the last issue on the agenda, and the meeting had a few complicated things on there, and I'm like, okay.
Don't build
Jerry
a cell
gets
tower
up
in
to
my
talk.
neighborhood.
Yeah, that's a great story. But Jerry gets up there, he says his piece, and everyone looks around and they're like, okay. And then they just hit their gavel and they're like, approved. And I'm about ready to fall out of my chair because I thought it was going to be a robust discussion, a tug of war, a lot of different expectations or generational stories of whose land this is and who.
My great grandfather.
I was ready to sit it out for the long haul, and they were just so matter of fact.
The cell phone issue before us was very emotional and not factual, so we were kind of worried that ours might be that same way.
The same thing, yeah. I do a lot in Preston. We're there just outside of Preston every weekend. We have a place down by Lanesboro, Preston
beautiful
area.
Down there, yeah.
It's beautiful down there. But yeah, when you go into town, it's like, well, I need to talk to the mayor. Oh, that's him. Well, how about the count? Yeah, that's him too. Oh, I mean, It's like, how many hats do you wear? I mean, there's 27 positions and there's 4 people doing it all. It's
Yes.
like, okay, so
Kind of
if
like
you-
going to a small business.
It's
Well,
phenomenal.
kinda
It
is.
is. It
It's
is.
good
Was
to
that
get
Hee
along
Haw or
with them.
Carol Burnett where the hotel clerk used to like step down behind the
Yeah.
counter and he'd pop back up? I'm the bellboy. I'm the
Yeah.
puppet.
Exactly. That's what it is in
Yeah.
Fillmore County. I mean, a lot of these small counties, and it's great as long as you get along. When you don't get along,
Yes.
there's not a lot of recourse either. And it's,
Yeah,
so
true.
you really do have to watch your P's
Yeah.
and Q's.
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
And I think with my experience over the years here too, it's like I know virtually everyone in the building and safety department, things like that too, where I can call up and ask for advice, and they give me things that say, "Hey, here's how I'd read the code. What do you think?"
That's gonna
And
be
so-
helpful.
Yeah, and so even like one little project we just had where they can say, they're going to require you to like a basement that you can't even get down to. They wanted me to put an accessible bathroom into, and I'm like, in a commercial project. And I'm like, how does that make sense? Well, it's like, because you have to upgrade commercial, the part of the code. And so he gave me got a few ideas on how to bypass that and say, well, we're just going to make a few other changes, and then you'll be happy. And they're like, yep, okay, cool. So
Well, that was decent of them. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't say that facetiously. I mean, but at least, again,
Yeah.
like if you could say, listen, this doesn't make sense. How do we not
Right.
do
Right.
right by the customer?
Yep.
Right, because that's the end goal. And how do we do right by the city? Because you have to work with them. That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at a piece of property right now that's commercial. It's four levels. There's like office space on street level. It has a mezzanine that you could put into more office space or storage. It has almost like a warehouse type in the back, and it has a basement. The only bathroom is in the basement, and it is like a little shack on a pedestal, because the plumbing, they didn't dig up the floor.
Old
They
style,
just
yeah.
and so when you walk down, it's studded, of course, and drywalled on the inside. When you walk down, there's this little open studded like phone booth in the back of the building. And so I'm looking at it going, when I start remodeling this, what am I going to have to do? Because I can't believe that, oh, no, it'll be fine. You're in Stewartville. I'm like, Stewartville's still in Olmsted County. Is this going to be an issue? And besides, where I'd have the offices, the street level, there's no elevator, of course, so you have 2 flights of stairs to get to, and then go back to the front, because you have to go to the back of the building to get to the stairs, and then the bathroom is in the front of the building, right under the front doors.
Oh, my.
And it's like, what a nightmare. This, if I'm going to put one of the businesses
tell you
in
what.
that's all manufacturing,
Jerry Rutgers sure as hell did not design that building. I'll tell you
We
that
can
now.
figure out how to fix it.
yeah. Well, and that's it.
Yeah.
The realtor just sent me over the plans for the building so that I could talk to someone like yourself and go, well, how many millions is this going to cost? Is this going to
Yeah,
be worth
keep
it?
Jerry's got it.
Yeah.
If more people, when they worked with a commercial real estate person, and we've got some amazing commercial real estate people in this area, absolutely amazing.
Matt's been
there's
really good to work with. It's from RGI.
RGI,
Oh, Matt-
yep,
Matt Gove.
Yep. Been very good to work with.
Awesome. Yeah, their knowledge is awesome. But when people are looking at leasing a space that they're going to renovate and looking at the nuances of it as running it as a business, it really does help to reach out to any of your contracting buddies that you have, or have Jerry come out and site visit with you, or at least give you a rundown of what you'd want to consider, because we've had plenty of people. He had an example just last week or 2 weeks ago, a workout studio in town where she had 3 different locations she was thinking of signing a lease on.
Oh, yeah, you
Young
talked about this.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
new business owner. You want her to be successful, and the location she really was in love with wouldn't accommodate the minimum number of workout stations that she needed, that her business plan was based on. And Jerry caught it, but there was also some other nuances with the building. So in the 11th hour, this came forward, and he was like, hey, I would really reconsider and maybe look at this other location for these reasons. It's going to save you some money in the long run, and you can put this other money into other areas of your business.
Sure.
And I think those conversations more proactively happening is really what we're aiming for, no matter if it's somebody new to business and starting out, or a larger client.
Well, I don't care if you're in construction, the signage, as an accountant, if you're not willing to do a little consulting before you get hired for the job, I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about like the lowest bid, right? And so you're smart enough to look at it going, okay, this isn't in the plan, so I don't have to bid it, and I can sneak in on that and get the lowest bid, and then we're going to have to add it later on because they're going to need it, but I don't have to say that till after the contract's signed. Education is so important. I mean, we talk about that with SBR Group. It's like when you come in and we talk about trying to educate the small business owner, we're not going to educate you on how to run your business. We don't want to be involved in Reliable Contractors. It's like we're not going to walk through and be your, well, here's what you should do, and you should, that's not it. When we talk about education, it's like, well, when do you make that decision to go from, QuickBooks to having an accountant, or using QuickBooks and having an accountant? When do you make that decision to take that next step? And same thing here. When do you say, well, is it worth it for me to call you tomorrow and say, Jerry, can I hire you to come walk through this building with me? And what's it going to cost me to have you tell me I'm an idiot and this is not the right building for me, or that, hey, this actually would work, because like everybody, I have a budget, and if I can't, it's big enough that I could literally put 4 of my businesses under one roof, and it would have to be separated out some, but it would work.
Sure.
But then I look at like the one bathroom. It's like, boy, that's a struggle, because bathrooms aren't cheap, and now I don't know how much a commercial bathroom is going to cost in that building, because you've got to move it up a level. It's 2 levels, and there's no plumbing there for it to get something on the main level, and if you the wet wall, if you will, well, the front of the building is all glass. That would be your wet wall when you got to that level. So it's like, well, you
I have
can't
no
really
idea
stud
what
in
he's
the,
talking about.
you can't really stud in the glass. Stick a couple pipes in
run
there.
some plumbing up there.
Right. So it's like,
Don't mind how that looks.
Yeah. So it's like, it's Stewartville.
Probably
but that
code
only,
against that too.
yeah. Well, it's Stewartville, but that only goes so far.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think the accessibility code is a Minnesota thing, and they can they can actually ask you to spend up to 25% of your project on making your building more accessible. So if you're going to spend $100,000 remodeling your building, they're going to ask you to do $25,000 in making a ramp to get into the building, add an accessible building, making sure there's a parking space outside, making that you can get in your building, adding a lift to the second floor, some things like that. Well,
and that's the things that and that's the part where education is so important, and it's hard because people don't want to be told they don't know.
Yeah,
I mean that's part of it, and they surely don't want to be told, well, I'm going to charge you a little bit to tell you how much you don't know. I mean, because at the end of your times, I wouldn't expect you to come down there and it's just, good old boy system. Come on down, and if I buy it, I'll hire you.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, it's your time. I need to pay you for that. I need to, what's that worth?
Jared, do you find it hard in that situation? I mean, you've been in it for 34 years, so you probably have grown, I would imagine, a thick skin over those 34 years. But as a new business owner, like, I mean, it would be a hard thing to say to use Jerry's words, like, listen, you're an idiot. This is not the right building for you to do.
Yeah, sure.
But I know you wouldn't say you're an idiot, but like to say to this gal that you're talking about, like, this is not the right right building for you, and this is why. That takes some real, I think, confidence in your craft to be able to say that. Say, not hey, I'm going to be able to spend more over here on this building for you, but no, this is why. Okay,
Right.
maybe it's less over there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real testament to your knowledge in that space, but also just as a good business person, say, I'm going to do what's best for you at the end of the day.
You could have Jerry walk through it silently, then go home and say, okay, Rebecca, go sell this.
Yeah.
Go sell them on this.
Sweet idea. Sweet idea.
That would work.
Yeah.
No, we have kind of developed a few leasing agents in towns because we've done a lot of kind of tenant fit up stuff where somebody gets an existing building, either bought it or leasing a new space. Where
kind of
let's
a
turn it
build-to-suit
in,
type
let's gut it and turn it into your space thing.
Yeah.
And so again, with the experience line over the years, we've talked about this even in my previous people that I've worked with. It's like I could probably spend 15 minutes on a bid and get you within 5% just by knowing what I need to throw into the thing, and or I could spend 40 hours putting a bid that's more detailed, and it's probably going to be about within a few $100.
Wow.
So it's
Even
like
our project manager has pointed out we track this, and
Yeah.
he's always on.
Yeah,
Which
so
we watch it carefully.
Barb Phelps and Leanne Peltoma, who came to RGI just recently too, used to work with them a lot with Titan 360.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're with RGI, but very easily. They can call me up. I can go look at the space that afternoon, send them a proposal that's probably within 5% of the project, even probably with a preliminary floor plan that goes along with it, and saying this is what I'm proposing to do, and then they can go back and say, okay, yeah, let's sign that lease, let's do this, let's do,
Sure.
go for it.
Because they got an idea.
Yep, the
Wow.
the
Yeah,
new
they're
tenant.
not ready to hire you yet.
Right.
But now we can at least get the space so we can hire you
Exactly.
later.
Yep. Go ahead and sign a letter of intent because we know we can do it and it's within our budget and it's like and it'll fit in there. So
That's, well, again, there's a lot that goes into buying a piece of property that you're going to that you're going to try and make your own space. Because I'm looking at this going, they're asking twice what the tax appraisal is, and so you look at that going, okay, well, you know what's going to happen. The moment I buy it at that price, my tax appraisal price is going to double, or more.
Sure.
And so all of a sudden the taxes that are there that look so appealing, they're not going to be appealing the moment you buy it. And then of course, if I do pay double the appraised value or the tax appraisal, then I come to you and you tell me I need X amount, blah, 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 I'm going to spend another $200,000, moving a bathroom or adding a bathroom and making it my space.
now the auditor's right on you again.
Right,
So-
that auditor's right there with his pen and paper. All of a sudden, he's a nerd going, I see that. Yeah,
your
all of a
taxes just doubled
Nerds,
again.
Nerds rule the world.
Yeah.
They ruin the world, baby.
Yeah, that was always
True.
when I was younger. Before I had employees, to be fair, I really didn't think it was true. It was me being a smartass. Whenever I'd get called a nerd or something like that, I was like, hey, you'll work for me someday.
Right. Right. Who was it? Was it Bill Gates or somebody that said that once? Like, be nice to the smart kids because, eventually you're gonna end up working for them, which is probably true.
Well, I think it's really, I think if you're going to work for somebody, I found out the A+ students are the ones working for the B+ students is how the world works. I mean, in reality, the nerds they've got the intelligence, but they're working for the motivated B+ guys.
I was always more like a DF guy.
I know.
C's get degrees.
Ah,
That's what they
see?
say in sales.
Yeah.
There's a little
Yeah.
there's a little comic strip I've seen pop up on Facebook a few times, but it's like a grandpa and his kid, and the kid's like, "Oh, grandpa, they called me a nerd at school today," and he's like, well, "What did you say?" And he said, "Well, I prefer the term smarter than you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like, he's like, "Good answer."
Yep.
Nice.
And so this is a little off topic, but it leads to a funny story if he's not still an inspector. Sparks,
He is retired, I think.
he is
but,
retired.
yep.
Perfect.
Is this
All
a
right.
good thing?
Mark Sparks
Mark Sparks?
was the electrical inspector.
Yeah, electrical inspector, which I thought was ironic.
That is
His last name was actually Sparks?
Great.
His
Yes.
last name's Sparks.
He
But he was the
had a
electrical?
brand.
Yep.
Right.
So the electrician who's retired now also, so I don't mind saying his name. I just talked to him the other day. He's still a client of mine. But when I had my pool hall, we had to go in and upgrade the electrical because the place was going to burn down. I mean, it was good. It was such a dump. But Don came in. I won't say his last name, but he had his own. He was an electrician in town for years. He comes through. He lays out all kinds of new wiring. He puts in low voltage stuff for my jukebox and things like that at the same time. And we get all done. And I said, he goes, okay, call Sparks. Let's get him. And I'm like, call who? Let's call Sparks. I'm like, does he know you call? And I said, who's that? The electrical inspector. I'm like, does he know you call him that? He's like, it's his last name. I was like, no, it's not. Does he know you call him that? He goes, I swear to God, it's his last name. And
That's funny.
And he come in and introduced himself, and I laughed at him. I couldn't help it. I just, when he walked in and shook my hand and
Is he still
introduced
alive?
himself.
This guy?
Oh, probably.
I mean, I kind of want to meet the
I know,
guy.
he sounds like a
Not
legend.
100%
Right,
sure,
like,
but I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Finally.
don't know.
I've
But
heard
this
him.
was-
I've heard Sparks forever.
Yeah, this was like
Yeah.
25 years ago, but he came in and we get all done, and Don's like, okay. He said, I'm walking behind Don because he was an older gentleman at the time, and he's like, okay, we've got our list, we're checking everything off, and he goes, do we check all the boxes? I'm like, we did. He goes, all right. He gets down, we get up front, we get down, he gets down on one knee next to my cash register, and he takes a screwdriver out of his belt, and he takes a outlet cover off, and he hands it to me, and he says, all right, put this somewhere where you know where it is. Don't we need that?
I think I know where this is
kinda-
going.
Right. Oh yeah, you know where this is headed. But I'm like, don't we need that? He goes, you'll need it. He said, put it somewhere you'll know where it is. So I had my cooler was right next to the till. I opened up my beer cooler and I just kind of set it inside the beer cooler and I shut it. I'm like, okay. And he goes in the back and he takes it was a switch panel, and he just takes it and pulls a switch out, which we were going to use, and he does the same thing. And he puts wire nuts on the on the wires, and then puts the panel back. So it's just got a hole where one of the switches was. And he hands this and goes, put that somewhere you know where it is. So I walk back up front, I put it next to the cover, and I'm like, don't we have an inspection in like half hour? He goes, yeah, but he said he goes, everything's right, but he will find something. And I'm like,
giving him something to find.
And he goes, and he says, I swear to God, he said, I've known Sparks for a lot of years. He will find something, whether it's legit or not. He said, I'm not going to comment, but he will not leave without red marks. He said, so we know where those things are. You know how to put them back in. He says it'll be a 5-minute fix after he leaves. You call him, he'll come back in a day or two, look at him, and we'll be fine. And I'm looking at it now going, okay, this is too ironic to be true. This isn't going to happen. This is going to backfire. Like, and he goes, Jerry, I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. I'm thinking at the end of the day, the electrician has to sign off on this stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. Sparks comes in. Don goes out the back door. Sparks comes in the front door. He walks around, and he's got his little, and he's writing a novel. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy is a piece of work. I mean, then he comes back, and I don't know what,
Sparks.
Well, I don't know what happened. I mean, he literally wrote pages in this little notebook. Then he comes back up front. He said, we've got a couple issues. I'm like, okay, what's that? And he, come with me. Walk in the back. He shows me this open. I'm like, oh, God, how'd that happen? I think we ran short of outlets or something. Must have, he must be going to get that. He just took off, a few minutes ago. Well, you make sure that's taken care of. And he says, and up by your register, there's an outlet cover missing. I'm like, well, I know he said he had to pick up 2 things. I don't know what 2 things. Maybe these are the 2 things.
Well played.
And he just he just looks at me and he knew. He just laughs. He's like, Don's doing this one, isn't he? And I'm like, he is. And he starts laughing. He goes, so this stuff will be fixed tomorrow? I says, we fix this afternoon.
Nice.
Call me when it's done. And he walks out. He wrote, again, I don't know how many words he wrote, but it was a lot. And he comes back and says, you need to put that switch in, you need to put that cover on. He walks out the door. I grab the cover, I put it on, I put the switch on. Don calls me about an hour later. He says, did you put that stuff on? I'm like, yep. He goes, what else did you give you? Nothing. He goes, you owe me a beer. And he hangs up on me.
That's funny.
And I called
awesome.
the next day and I said, I'm ready to go. And he goes, what did you do? I said, I got a matching cover and put it on by the till. He goes, okay, what about in the back? I said, got a switch. He said, did you put it in or Don put it in? Don put it in? Good. He says. He goes, all right, I don't have to come back. He says, you're good. And he never, and that was it. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. I mean,
now, but would that happen today?
That was 25 years ago, and it was...
Was that a tall, older Don with a green van?
Yep.
Are you serious? You know he drove a green van?
If the last name started with a D as well?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
He did a house for me at one. He did a house for me at one point, and he was like, he was an electrician who would walk in and he'd be like, touch the wires. Yep, that one's live. Yep. And he just walk away and just like...
Don and Sparks are like 2 walking legends the way it sounds right now.
I'm telling you, I just, like I said, Don's wife passed away a while back, and he came back to town, and he's, like I said, been a client of mine now, again, for a while with the cars. And Don is just a stellar human being. He really is. But yeah, very unique. I mean, like I said, that doesn't surprise me one bit. He was Yep. And, the thing is, when he'd walk around, he just kind of had that, 25 years ago, he kind of had that old man just plod along, and you're thinking, dude, pick up the pace, would you? Let's get something done. And, 8 hours later, you'd come in, and I'm thinking, I got 3 days worth of work here. 8 hours later, you come in going, yeah, I'll be back in the morning. I got to finish that and that and that. Probably take me 45 minutes. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. The guy was like working at a snail's pace all the time, but he would get shit done. Just amazing. And like I said, I never had a problem with any of the work he ever did. It's Don Dickman is his name.
Don, wow.
Yeah. But just a
future SBR guest. Bring him out of retirement.
Morning. What a great guy. I need an electrician.
What a great
for
guy.
Signs.
But I tell you, when he told, he's retired. Like, he's been retired for a while. But
he was looking about to retire in 25 years ago.
Yeah, right. He did. He I don't know how long he's been retired, but it's been a while. But yeah, when he told me this switch panel, and he took a switch out, I'm like, you're just gonna leave, and I'll put wire nuts on it. They're gonna burn the place down. He says, you're in way better shape than you were a day ago. 3 days ago.
Holy shit.
Yeah, but and Sparks is just writing like a novel. I thought, that switch and that cover, I got pages worth of garbage that I'm going to have to do. And I'm just getting more and more angry with Don. I'm thinking, I'm going to give Don a piece of my mind. And he goes back, he's like, switch cover, switch, or outlet cover, and switch. And
wow.
Yeah. I was like, Don was, but he's like, you owe me a beer. Click.
Nice.
That is a good ending.
Yep.
That is a good
Yep,
ending.
that was
I
great.
love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's some big projects? You guys have anything fun coming up?
I think one that's fun, but it's complicated. We're working on a historic building in St. Charles.
Oh yeah, you talked about that. Yeah.
And it is two younger entrepreneurs that have developed a business and a good, healthy online retail presence. And they're in a space that has been vacant in town for some time, and it's very meaningful to the town. And so they were able to acquire it, and they're doing some crowdsource funding to hit their goals so that they can start their renovations and their construction. And we kind of have gone down different paths with it. Jerry has some great connections that specialize in grants and architectural grants, those types of things,
Oh, wow.
up in the cities. And so he brought in some of his contacts, and it's been really fun the last 6 months because they're getting very excited now and things are starting to come to fruition. And we're hoping to start actual construction on renovating this very complicated space, but very beautiful space.
Yeah. St. Charles has
some-
its gladiolas days every summer, and the gentleman who did all the gladiolas it was his building originally.
Oh.
So it's like it was built in 1898, and
Holy cow.
we're going down into the basement,
Lots of
finding all
treasures
his,
in the
his
basement.
racks where he's drying bulbs and stuff down there yet. And
So what makes it challenging? I mean, just because it's a historical building, so you have to stay with that. I imagine.
So
right?
there's historic stuff, working with the State Historic Preservation
I was just saying,
Society,
so it's
stuff of that
actually
stuff.
registered.
It is. It's a
building?
registered neighborhood. The building itself
Oh.
is not. The district is. It's like the downtown district, and so it kind of goes back and forth where you can apply for some of these grants and things, but you don't have to. If you just want to remodel the building, you can. It's not required like in some of the downtown Rochester buildings to have the historic designation and the plaque on the wall.
Right.
You have to do what they say to
Right.
the outside. You can't just, let's put in new windows. It has to
Yeah.
meet some certain guidelines, and so we're kind of weighing that right now, working with this architect out of the cities that I've had some experience with over the last 15 years probably, where he's grown and knows how to work with the organizations to get grants, get stuff. And so now we're trying to kind of weigh that between what's the benefit if we're going to spend $100,000 and get $40,000 back, but that's still $60,000 over what we wanted to spend.
Right.
Then it's
Right.
like, well, then is it worth it? So we're kind of weighing some of those things right now, and so we can get going on it because they've got bought the building early on in the year, and now
They're
we're trying
committed.
to.
They're
So now it's like
done.
trying to figure out, okay, how soon can you actually producing income out of this building?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, like that's what we said earlier. It's like there's a lot of moving parts to that.
Absolutely.
Now you add in the historical part.
Yeah.
Yeah, even more.
And when we first started working with them, they were really passionate about keeping the local history and connected the historic part. And we're like, great, but they're like, hey, we want to be open in like 90 days. All right, sit down. This is where just like
That's the hard conversation.
Without a hard contracting background of my
Yes.
end, it's like,
Yep.
okay, let's just talk through this here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
let's
90 days.
And
Well,
then
we're back to
constantly
the-
having to reset because then it was, they want to be open by Christmas in this location. And right now, it's at a really good tipping point. They're either more all in on preserving the historical aspects and going above their really pretty amazing budget that they've done through crowdfunding and just public support, which you don't see that happen too often.
Right.
Right.
But they've really made happen and, really pushing against that just to get, as their the architect says, well, it's 40% off if you get the grant money is how he sees it in his sales pitch. And I'm like, you're still over budget.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of talking down
you
some
double the budget, you get
expectations
40% off of that. Now you're only 50% over budget.
There's math again.
but they've got equity and they're committed to doing this. So it's really, really interesting to see how those choices are going to play out the next couple of weeks. So that's really exciting.
Well,
Nice.
but you're back to like Craig asked earlier. Do you ever get in that situation? You have to look at somebody and go, "This is going to turn out the way you think." It's you have to be careful. I mean, how you approach people with that. But yeah, I mean, it's like go to the car lot and saying, "I want a red convertible that'll pull a 40-foot trailer." Those are two different vehicles, folks. This isn't you pick one. Well, we get you one or the other.
Maybe
Yeah.
back in the Chevy
Yeah.
SSR trucks, that maybe you could have got that.
Right.
Yeah,
But
no.
it's like you got to pick one, guys. You can't do both.
I think one of Jerry's greatest strengths is his calmness. And so when he has these discussions with people, he's incredibly steady and it keeps them calm, whether they're a calm or a fiery personality.
I mean, you two are like, right? Like as far as energy is concerned, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Like I mean, I've only met you a couple of times. I've known Rebecca just through BNI and stuff like that. But now it's like you guys are like. I mean, so how do you manage?
Well, I can
that?
match the energy like you were talking about. Like we can do that stuff, and she can match energy sometimes too. But that's a little harder. Probably.
It is harder
to match
for
the
me
low
to-
energy.
That's
Like
the
that.
one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I'm just naturally like that storyteller person and
Right.
feed on the energy of it.
I know it's like the two dogs in Looney Tunes. Like, all right, I'm ready to go.
right.
Bounce it around. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let's go.
But it's kind of, I mean, it's a good dynamic because
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking to the customers and saying, yeah, let's go, let's do this, we can do this, and then you're like, all right, yeah, we can do that, but let's kind of plan it. Can we plan it? Can I
Yeah.
put some lines on a paper first?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's a hard one to explain to people too. Sometimes where you'd be like, well, I talked to this guy and he gave me a bid for this, and why are you this most? Like, well, because you don't have a plan. You don't have. It's like we're both just guessing. You went like this and pointed all over the room and said, I want this and this and this and this, and so he gave you this and I gave you this, and we don't have any idea if they're even similar.
Yeah,
Wow.
so you guys have different visions.
Yeah,
entirely.
exactly.
You're trying to bid your vision, but in a partnership, whether you're married or not. I mean, but when you're in a partnership like this, so many people think that, well, you and I think alike. We have the same skill set, that we make great partners. No, that's horrible. You need that yin and yang. You need.
Yeah.
You need to be weak where he's strong. He needs to be needs to be
Exactly.
weak where you're
It's
strong.
like that Venn diagram with that little sliver right
It is.
there.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Right.
like if he has to rely on you for your skill set and you have to rely on him for his skill set, that's where the partnerships really work. You know.
Yeah, there's a reason that there's 6 of us in the front office of SBR, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, each of us bring a little something different
Yep.
to that. Because otherwise, well, who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
Well, really, I mean that's and 6. We talked about this. 6 is way too many. Just say that out loud. But
They try to get rid of me,
You
but
think so?
5 would be
Well,
fine.
you guys have amazing. You have moved mountains, though. I mean, really, in a
But-
short amount of time together.
But that's exactly what's happened. And, we look at SBR Group, we don't, it's a small business right now. We have plans to be in multiple states within 18 months. And then the 5-year plan is international. This is like you said earlier, I want to scale this. What we're doing here, in my opinion, if we don't scale it, it doesn't matter how great it is in Rochester. If we don't scale it, it's a failure.
yeah,
I mean, so this is a business that we have a solid 5-year plan and a rock solid 10-year plan, and it's got to be scaled into something massive where 6 people won't be able to run it, and that's the key. Right now, 6 people it seemed like way too many in the beginning, but chose the team carefully. I mean, it really is. It's a yin and yang times 3. In that sense.
for sure. Times 6, really. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like you've got that 2-person pair. We've got that 3 times. Is what I'm saying, and that's where. But everybody kind of has their thing, and obviously with 6 people, some of the skill sets do cross over. But, and this is going to sound really condescending, but everybody
you can
has
direct
to-
it at me.
All right. No, but one of the things we did early on was establish everyone has a function, and I hate to say it, condescending of like, well, know your place, but it's like, stay in your lane. Don't be afraid to help me in mine, and I'll help you in yours. Well, we need that. We need those to generate the ideas and to evolve the ideas, but stay in your lane. Do your thing. I'll do mine, and let's keep moving forward, and let's get our stuff done.
Yeah.
And it really, the way we ended up with 6. In all honesty, I had a vision, and I was looking for help and investors, both sides, and I said, my idea was I'd really like to have a trio. That's really kind of where I want to be. So I picked 5 guys that I knew and I trusted, and I really wanted to be part of it. And unique skill sets, and the more I thought about it, it's like, boy, it would be great to talk all 5 of these guys into it. That's not going to happen, but if I can get 1 or 2 to come out of this, and then I'll figure out where our gaps are, and basically, wherever our gaps are, that's what we have to hire done. I mean, at the end of the day, if you decide you're never going to swing a hammer, but you're doing the design work, you can hire a hammer. And so I pitched my 5 top choices, of where I wanted to be.
That was a tough
And
choice.
Dream team.
Well, that was the idea. And all 5 just went, this'll work. This could really turn into something. And I'm like, well, put your money where your mouth is. And all 5 were like, all right. Really?
And they all
Here we
stepped
are.
right up.
All 5, I mean, stepped up, and here we are. And to me, I think that's a great story. I love the way it went, but I really didn't think there'd be 6 of us coming together to do it. I invited 5 plus me, but I really didn't think we'd, I just thought this is kind of my idea, or I shouldn't say my idea, but my vision. And it's like, not everybody's going to share in that. Not everybody's going to. Today, as a matter of fact, I have a good friend of mine, guy I graduated with. He's a vendor, and he sells to me chemicals at the shop. And so he was asking, "What's all this about?" I see it on Facebook, SBR, but whatever. So I start telling him about it, and he goes, "Wow, it sounds like multi-level marketing. You're like another Amway." And I'm like, "No, it's not like that." And he's like, "Well, let's keep these people from doing it for themselves. If they're motivated, they'll just do it themselves. You don't need you." And he was just so negative about the whole thing. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, well, first off, I'm a motivated guy. And it took me, and I went to do this in 2020 during COVID. I didn't care for the way our marketing group that I was in, you were in, that handled COVID. Now, to be fair, nobody handled COVID well. It was unprecedented. So I don't hold that against them. It's just once COVID was over, and what I mean by that is when we could meet in person again.
Yeah.
They didn't go back to meeting in person right away, and then they stayed on Zoom, and then they let it be hybrid, and they strung it out. And marketing, networking, referral groups, absolutely, you can't convince me that there's any benefit in a Zoom referral.
Zero.
Group.
The value falls right out.
Right, it's gone. So anyway, so I looked at doing it then, and I was just going to do it myself. I was like, we'll just start something here small in Rochester. Well, to start something small in Rochester, you spend the same amount of money and effort as if you're going to scale it. Just the difference is when you keep it small, you don't get paid back. I mean, not fast enough, or maybe not at all. And so then I started looking at, okay, well, I've got to, I'm not a web guy. I'm not this. I'm not that. And so I look at all the things I can't do. Okay, well, I got to hire that. Well, I'm not going to do this. I got to hire that. And pretty soon I've got all this money going out and my goal is to put together a couple chapters of people and small business owners in Rochester. I'll never get this back. And I just tabled it. It's like, Well, then the other group, they jacked their prices. They didn't give any extra value. They took away benefits from, people that were helping and volunteering in charge and turned into volunteers rather than, compensated people. And all of a sudden the time wasn't the big objection anymore. It was money. It's like, well, it's like when Microsoft went from you bought Office or QuickBooks on disk and you could run it for 10 years, for $200. Well, now it's a subscription. Now you got to pay every month, and you never get away from that. You're going to pay for the rest of your life. That's what this is. So think of Microsoft and QuickBooks. They didn't have to buy disks. They didn't have to spend the labor or the time to manufacture, put something on those disks. They don't have to ship those disks. All they kept was the sales and marketing, right? That's key. You were key in that,
accelerant,
right? And but you lost so much of your expense because all the design and the development still has to be done, whether it's a download or if you're physically manufacturing something.
Millions, yeah.
Right. And you don't ship you don't ship a download, you don't manufacture a download, you just design it, And so here, same thing. It's like, well, the money's not the problem. If we scale it, the only real expense we have is going to be heavy up front. And then you have maintenance, but we don't have to charge $1,000 a year to do what we do. And so all of a sudden, once the number one objective wasn't time, because if your objection is time, I can't be there every week, which used to be the objection for 20 years. It just recently turned into money. Well, if you can't give up an hour a week, hour and a half a week, every week, well, then I can't help you because that's what I need you to participate.
Yeah.
And so if your objection is time, it's like, I appreciate your time and I'll leave you alone. I'm going to move on to the next guy who will understand that a little bit of his time is going to turn into growing his business or her business,
Unproductive time turned into productive time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you take that, like I said, we've said 100 times, take that priority shift. Make our business about your business and you'll help us. It just, we don't have to beg for it at that point. And so given that to, pitch that to these guys and all of a sudden there's like, and I'm thinking, okay, you still have to be a little off to want to put your money and time to it because it's going to be a little bit of money. It's going to be a lot of time. But all of a sudden, as all 5 guys come together and I'm sitting back in my chair the first night after everybody said yes, I'm like, what do I do now? I mean, this is
Like, it's really happening.
well, yeah, because it's like I really assumed, I was really hoping to get 1 or 2 of the 5 to see the vision that I had. And then when I had all of them, I started looking at this going, well, whatever guys didn't see the vision, we'd have to hire what their skill set. We have to hire that out. Now I have them all. I don't have to pick which ones to hire. I can, if we bring everybody in. So I literally brought everybody together in a room and I said, let's talk this out. And of course, then they're all looking at each other going, there's more than just me. There is more than just you. It's not just you and I. There's 5 of you. There's 6 of us total. What can we do now? Can we come together as a team? And the only time we're not going to get along is when we start stepping on each other's toes. If I'm looking at what Craig's going to do, and I say, well, I'm going to take that over. I'm going to step in there. I'm going to do this right. Well, no, Craig's here for a reason. Let him do his thing. And as long as, like we talked with you guys, in a partnership, if I let him do his thing and he lets me do mine, he needs me, I need him, why wouldn't we get along?
You're both
Right.
stronger for it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm not afraid to tell him, I need another set of eyes on this.
Yep.
And I'm not asking him to take it over, but give me another set of eyes, give me an opinion, And we use WhatsApp as like a community chat,
Nice. Yep.
and that works out great because we can just throw something out there and all of a sudden you get these perspectives that I didn't think of. It's like
In the beginning, it was really eye-opening when we all had an idea of what we wanted to do. We all kind of had a general idea, but I'll take the interview, the business interview that we do. That stemmed from somebody saying we don't need bios. Why do we need bios for people? And then let's do the interview.
That.
And then
Yeah.
that I say I didn't know how it would go without them, but we used to have 2 members in my previous life, my previous group, and your presentation was supposed to be 6 minutes.
6 minutes, yeah.
And one was a guy, one was a gal, and their bios would be longer than their presentation. You'd have to get up.
Unbelievable.
And so and I always get myself.
Take that at 7 a.m.
Right. So like the one day I got myself in a bit of a jam because after the meeting, I followed because we do 2 6 minutes, and it just so happened I didn't pick it, but I was following the gal that had the super long bio, and they do hers, they do the bio. I get mine up, and I left half of it blank. It was just like, yeah, he's got 3 kids, or he's got 3 kids. He's got, and they kind of went through the thing, because between Heather and I we have 5, and he has 2 dogs and a hedgehog, and it was just really simple stuff. And then at the end, it's like your burning desire is to have a bio shorter than my presentation. And that's how it started. And she just looks at me like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I just get up and I'm like, that's, but how many times, it's like, I fix cars.
Right.
It's,
I fix cars.
You'd
Yeah.
get behind
Elevator
me.
pitch.
Yeah.
Yep. You'd get someone that was ahead of me, and you get your 45 seconds, 60s, whatever it was, depending on the number you have. And the poor guy ringing the bell, and they just keep going.
Gotta be
ringing
aggressive with the bell.
Plodding along, trying to keep the meeting moving. Yep.
And then they'd sit down after going way over and frustrating everybody. I'd stand up and I'm like, Jerry with Broadway Car Care, we fix cars.
We fix cars.
And I just sit down, and then just same thing. They'd look at me like, you're making me look bad.
Right.
You kind of did that.
Jerry, Reliable Contractors. I build buildings.
Yep. That's
There you go.
well, Craig did it to me last week. You were subbing
did.
for Jeremiah.
Yeah.
He's like, let me guess, you fix cars. I'm like, yeah.
And he sat down. That's all he said. I was not expecting that. That threw me. It threw me.
Sticky still. Everybody remembers that.
Yeah. Right.
I think bringing the interview portion into the meeting was brilliant. I mean, it's
I
so
really
much
like
more
it.
impactful than a
enjoy
bio,
it.
and it's so personal. But it's like every single interview that I've been lucky enough to be a part of is so interesting.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
the questions are phenomenal. And one of the questions that, all the questions really make me think, but I also feel like I, really understand the person better and get to know them better too, which I really like.
Yep.
But I love some of the questions. Like one of them is, who's your mentor?
Yeah.
And I kind of got to thinking, wow, what does that mean to me? Like I used to always have mentors, and it's been a while. And I was thinking, okay, here's somebody that I'm looking up to, and I already have so much respect for, and I see their great decision making and their successes, and they're vulnerable enough to even share some of their challenges and failures.
Yep.
Yep.
But I'm so curious, who is their mentor? And it's so fascinating to hear and see this, different aspects of people.
And it gives people an opportunity to. I think was what we thought was a non-threatening way to get to know you better, because what is networking? What are we trying to do in those meetings, right? We're trying to build relationships. It's what you try to do for Reliable Contractors. It's what I try to do for Precision Science.
And you want to plug your football team?
Well, yeah, I do. I do.
No.
Oh yeah, I have my presentation today. Yeah, and I make no apologies for it. But to build the relationship, and so you get to know the people. And I'll tell you, and I had this conversation with, I think it was with Molly in the Wednesday group, because I went to the Wednesday meeting. When I left our previous group, and we were out, I was out for a couple months. I think it was. I don't remember how long.
I got kicked out.
You did,
but
so did I. But
that's right. Yeah.
But when I finally got kicked out, and then we had our first kind of meeting, the Tuesday morning meeting, there was a lot of the previous members in there.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. I was emotional about it because I really missed the camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong. There's mornings I get up like, damn it, I'm tired, right? I want to stay in bed, but I do draw a lot of energy from those meetings.
Yeah.
And it's important to me, like you said, to get to know these people, and I don't be afraid of somebody else's success, right? I want Reliable Contractors to build a big giant building in Rochester. I want, when we get a realtor to sell a house in our chapter. I want, all the success in any one of our members in SBR, because I think it's fun to see when you say, you know what, here's this small business. I'll use Ryan Ristow, right?
Yep.
Guy's doing engraving in his garage. I'd love for him to quit his job and do that full time because he's scaled this thing, right? And so that's really what's exciting for me.
And take this with a grain of salt. Let me finish before you throw anything at me. I don't care if anybody comes and uses Reliable Contractors. I don't care about that at all. I really don't. What I want people to come meet Jerry and Rebecca. Mm-hmm. And when they meet you and they get to know you, they're going to use Reliable Contractors.
Yeah.
If they have a job that you can do, they're going to use you. I don't need to brag up Reliable Contractors, go to this building, call this number, look at this website. It's like, go meet Jerry, go meet Rebecca. Mm-hmm. When you meet the people, when you make the relationship with the people, Reliable Contractors is going to grow. It's going to succeed. Mm-hmm. So like I say, it's not that I don't care about Reliable Contractors, being successful, but Reliable Contractors can't be successful without you two. I mean, at the end of the day, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was because you'd mentioned earlier, your bid is your bid, and are you the cheapest? Probably not. Are you the most expensive? Probably not. Who knows?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's Jerry and Rebecca Rutgers of Reliable Contractors that you really are buying, and that's the most important thing,
right?
I think.
And if I hire you to do something, and you're a few percentage points higher than the next guy. And again, not to talk about that like you're going to be the most expensive in town. That's not my point. Mm-hmm. But if I spend a few more percentage points with you guys than the next guy, but I'm open in 90 days. I'm not waiting for December to be open. Yeah. It's like, and at the end of the day, if I'm running a coffee shop where I'm making, a few dollars in profit an hour, or if I'm running something really successful where you're killing it, well, either way, if I'm not open, I'm not killing it. Mm-hmm. You can't, and I'm not gaining clients that are coming in to talk about me when they go home tonight, or when they go back to work, or when they're at their kid's soccer game. I want them to come and talk about my coffee shop that they were in, or fixing their car, whatever. Yeah. And every day that I'm trying to save a nickel, and not and use someone else, and they drag me out another month, or then like you said, so all of a sudden I saved $20,000 by going to ABC company, but then. I'm calling you the next day going, they already bumped me $50,000. Yeah. Well, now I'm 30,000 a hole, and it wasn't in the original plan. So now I'm waiting, and I'm not open. I mean, all those things. It's just an escalating scale.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's like back to the interview. I really like that idea because again, it's not about. We want you to do a presentation and show us pictures of the buildings, not Hollywood video, but the rest of them.
Leave that one out.
Leave that one out. But we want to see that because obviously you got to brag about what you do. But at the end of the day, I'd rather see the interview first and get to know you guys.
The values
Right.
and your stories and your
Right.
You guys bring up a unique situation, like because I know I almost wonder if we shouldn't have you both come in when we need to do your interview and ask you both those questions. We could talk about that. I mean, because you're
That'd
next
be kind
week.
of interesting too.
Yeah,
Definitely open to that.
yeah. So anyway,
Well, yesterday I had a young guy come in my door at Broadway and asked me if I had anybody cleaning my windows. Super polite, had his T-shirt on with his business name on it. And I said, I don't right now. And so he said, well, can I give you a quote? Absolutely. So we talked for a few minutes. I actually gave him a flyer or a trifold for SBR Group, and I said, you're just getting started. He was brand new, just getting started. I said, come see us. It won't cost you anything, And he's like, well, I'm not sure if it's in the budget just yet. And he's brand new. I was like, won't cost you anything to come visit. So hopefully we'll get him in to visit.
Thursdays.
Speaking of, we should have a scholarship for young people entering the
We-
group.
it's in the
I
works.
would sponsor that.
Right.
I think it would be such a great.
That's in our long-term
Okay,
plan.
good.
Dan.
Yeah.
You guys think of everything. I mean,
Well, that was actually a suggestion from one of our members, Dan Rosa,
Okay.
who's in the Wednesday with Tint and Detail Clinic. And he asked if that'd be something that we'd be interested in getting
Yeah.
involved in. I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's it. That is in the to-dos. It's in the future, but yes, it's
Yeah.
in the to-dos. But so I spoke with Dan. And I get people that come in the shop all the time, and they're looking for a handout or they're looking for something, or like this, and so I was like, he was very, very polite. So I said, well, put together an estimate and let me know. So he gets my email address and he leaves. And I'm kind of a pessimist in my old age. I'm kind of going, I'll probably never hear from this guy again. We'll see. It'll be 2 weeks from now and I'll get some ridiculous estimate. Last night, I'm sitting watching TV with the wife. It was almost 9:00. My phone bingles. I look at it, and I have an email
Bingles.
from him. Bingles. That's my word.
The hell is that?
It's an iPhone thing.
It's a unique
Oh,
tone.
it
Unique
was-
tone.
whatever.
Android. You guys
yeah.
are both Android.
Yeah, it's
Bingles.
an iPhone thing.
iPhone hasn't gotten to the jingle yet. They're still on the bingle.
Remember when you used to tell me how you told me how cool Rebecca is?
Yeah.
She bingles. She
Well,
just said that.
listen,
So just FYI. It just
she
got
is
through.
cool. She's not perfect. So
That one bingle.
So, but 9:00 last night, I get my QuickBooks estimate email from him, my quote, and so I didn't respond to it because I'm the lazy one apparently. But I waited till this morning. I sent him back and I said, "Yep, that works. Let's do this. Come take care of my windows." And he called. I sent that at probably 7:30 this morning. We're getting opened up. 8:30, he calls me and says, "What day would you like?" I'm like, it doesn't matter. We're open Monday through Friday. So I said, if you're just doing the outside, he goes, "Yep, just the outside." I'm like, well, I don't care. The outside's always there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Open it up then, yeah.
I said, I assume you're going to invoice me like you estimated me. Yep. I'm like, okay. Well, I said, I pay my bills, so you'll get paid. But I said, how often do I do it? I said, let's try once a month. He goes, that can be enough? I don't know.
Haven't had them cleaned in 3 years, so it should be fun.
I've been doing it myself, and they look almost as bad when they're done as they did before. So
It's too easy to streak them.
it is.
It
It's
really
awful.
is.
I went on Amazon and I bought my little squeegee. It was just a terrible idea. So anyway, I said, he goes, well, how about
you can't reach the top.
Yeah, no, it's got a handle, but you gotta spread it out a little. Yeah, I don't leave the ground. It's like I'm just. So they're clean from here down.
Yeah.
But that's all I can see. So, but he says, how about Thursdays? Would Thursdays work for
So
you?
this week, super prompt.
Yeah, he called me at 8:00 this morning. Half hour after I sent it back, he says, would Thursdays be a good day for him? I'm like, yep. Once a month on Thursdays. I said, and if I see it looks like we should do it more often, he goes, yeah, if we do it more often, I'll get you a better price. All right. So I said, let's start with once a month and see how that goes. And he's like, yep, Thursdays will work. And so I'm working about 2:30. I hear something I look at the front and he's out there squeegeeing my windows, and they looked fantastic when they were done. He did it today. I was like, I really like this guy.
Is he just doing commercial or is it like residential too?
I didn't ask him that, but I did call Jeremiah then, and Jeremiah owns Family Fun Center.
Yep.
He's
of glass.
A lot more windows than
windows. And so I called Jeremiah. I said, who does your windows? He goes, I don't know. He said, Mike, the owner of the building does that. And I was like, well, do you like him? He goes, well, I don't know. He said, I'm sure if he wants to put a quote together, what do you got? So I told him the story I just told you. He's like, yeah, send him down. So when he gets all done, he comes up and he shakes hands. He's like, how does it look? I'm like, no, it looks great. It looks awesome. I said, I opened up my closet and I showed him. I said, there's my little bucket and my squeegee thing. And he's just like, well, so you really didn't need me? oh, I needed you.
That is awesome.
I needed you. And he goes, so, but I told him, I said, are you familiar with Family Fun Center on 7th Street? And he says, yeah. I was like, good friend of mine bought that about 1.5 years ago. And he goes, lots of windows there. I'm like, yeah, they're kind of tall though, because you said he didn't do 2 stories yet. He doesn't have, scaffolding or any of the big stuff. He's just got a little short ladder. He goes, I think I can reach all that with my extensions and that. And I was like, well, go talk to Jeremiah, give him a card. I said, it's not his decision to make, but he'll get you the decision maker. I said, it's an in anyway. And so, I called Jeremiah then this afternoon to tell him that Craig didn't want him here tonight,
And he sent me a text. That's not true either, Jeremiah. If you're listening to this, true. That is not
I
true.
miss you, Jeremiah.
I'm just kidding. I didn't tell him that. I told everybody else that, but I didn't tell him that. So, no.
He sent me a text.
Yeah. No, but it was funny when I was talking to him. He goes, hey, he kind of cut me short. He goes, I got to get going. He said, I'm talking to Dan. I'm like, do I know Dan? The window guy you sent me. Oh, Dan. Yeah. Okay, great. And so he was already there this afternoon. So it's like just, but that's the kind of people we want
Yeah.
in the group.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the kind of people we want.
True
in
small
there.
business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
he very quickly developed that trust with you and
Right.
that relationship where you felt comfortable recommending him, and I love that.
And this is where today this is what makes me feel good about what we're doing, because when Jeremiah told me that he was talking to Dan, and I told Dan about Jeremiah and that look on his face and the handshake that we just shook hands, right? And he's walking away, and I tell him, go down and talk to Jeremiah. He comes back up and he shakes my hand again. That means something.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I didn't tell him, okay, now do I get $5 off? It's not about, I'm not looking for a deal. It's just, but it's cool to see that happening. And that, when I feel that way, it just makes me, even if nobody else notices it. I mean, here I am talking on a podcast, but if no one else notices it, I don't care. It made me feel good,
Yeah.
and it's, and back to what I said in the beginning, success is awesome, even when it's not yours, enjoy other
If you can
people's
watch
success.
your friends or your people be successful.
I don't know this guy, and I still loved it.
But I'm saying, but you're gonna get to know him. But I mean,
absolutely.
you can now maybe see the progression of success, and that is just fun.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just makes you feel good, and when you feel good, feeling good makes you feel good, because you're like, I'm in it for the right reason.
That sounds like a bingo thing.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. You flip that concept around though too, and when you're with people that share good values together like that, and so openly, even their failures, you can. It's like a honor to be a part of when they're vulnerable to you, to share their failures.
Right.
So today in the group, I had somebody I've been working with SBR that was really having a rough week, and they shared that right away before the meeting started, straight out there. And I thought, wow, we just came together as a group. Some of these people I just got to know.
Yeah.
The last
Group is
month or
really
so.
starting to gel.
And
That's awesome.
they felt comfortable enough to share that and to say, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do with this situation. And it was just, I thought, really cool that they were comfortable sharing that and just opening up like that too.
Well, and it's something I've talked about with like most of my employees, when they do something that isn't cool and it doesn't turn out well, whatever, or they thought it was going to, or it was just a mistake, whatever. I mean, they kind of look like, he's going to be mad. It's like, well, I'm not happy about this. I mean, obviously, it didn't go well, but at the end of the day, it's like, I always say, it's like, I'm not a dog. I don't get mad, but are you going to do this again? No. Okay. So if you'd have gotten it right the first time, what did you learn? And I always get that, especially with the younger guys, they kind of look at you like, I don't know. I'm like, you do know. You didn't learn anything. If you get lucky and you just get it right the first time, that's great. I mean, there's something to be happy about there. You can celebrate that. When you screw something up, though, you learn from it, because you're not going to do that again, right? And you're gonna. And
No, I will. I'll do it at least twice.
Well, like I said, everybody has their purpose.
Math.
But that's something I really try to push with my employees is, when you goof something up, I might give you that angry stare for a minute to wrap my head around how did this happen, but at the end of the day, you got to go back and look, going, they're not old like I am. I screwed this up 30 years ago. And now it's been so long ago, I kind of forgot I screwed it up, and I forgot that's how I learned. How can you think that was the way to do this? Well, they didn't know. They haven't done it. You can't know what you don't know.
Yep, don't know what you don't know.
And Rick Pagel is a friend of mine, and I hope he listens to this sometime. But when I met him 30 years ago, he would say, "I can't know what you don't know." And I thought it was the dumbest thing I had ever heard. I was like, quit saying that. That is the dumbest thing. And, now as I get older, it's like, it's perfect. I mean, it really, you can't know if no one has taught you, if you haven't experienced it, if you haven't screwed something up to lead you to that answer, you can't know what you don't know. And so I tell people, even in your failures, you don't have to be happy that you failed, but you can at least have a little comfort in knowing I'm not going to do it again. I learned something, because you don't learn anything from your successes. You enjoy them, but it doesn't teach anything.
That is such a huge part of leadership. I think when you're younger or early on in a career, it's so intimidating when you talk to somebody more seasoned that says, "Hey, you can't know what you can't know."
Right.
And you're like, "Oh, well, I'm just supposed to know everything," right? But you don't want to admit that, and you're not going to put yourself out there. And you learn to fail, and you learn to succeed, and you learn to lean on other people too that you trust to guide you.
A huge struggle for me at the gun shop is when you're doing permit to carry classes and you're doing any type of gun training. I'm going to give a little gender gap on this one, because the ladies will come in, and most of the time they're very timid, and they're asking. They want, how do I do this? How do I do this? Looking for help. Now, some ladies are very seasoned and they grew up with it, but the ones that didn't, they have no problem asking for help. And right. But now you get a guy that's in the exact same situation, didn't grow up around it, doesn't really know what he's doing with a firearm, but he's a guy. And 95% of the guys feel like they should know this. So they're embarrassed to ask questions. And of course, when you are a gun guy, when someone picks up a firearm that isn't experienced with it, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's
you can't fake it.
You can't cover. You can't. You just haven't watched enough John Wick movies to fake that. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't transfer.
Yeah, it just doesn't transfer over. So and so then you try to bridge that gap a little bit by being helpful without being condescending. I mean, obviously it's like, but it's just there is a huge difference between men and women when it comes to firearms, and not knowing, like the women that know what they're doing already, the guys that know what they're doing already, they pick it up, they just move, they go, and I stay out of their way because they look good doing it, But when you get a guy that doesn't know it and you get a gal that doesn't know it, their approach almost 100% of the time polar opposites. The ladies want help.
Note to self, but I go in.
So fascinating. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it really does. Yeah.
Yep. And it's easier to help the people that want the help or admit the help. When you look at the guys, they want the help, but they don't want to look in front of this whole crowd. And half of the guys there, or 3/4 of the guys there, are good with a firearm already. And so then all these guys feel really intimidated by that because of the crowd you're in. And it's like, so I always start out everything with, you can't know what you don't know. If you have experience with this, go over there. If you don't have experience with this, come here by me and I will help you. And we will, we'll get through this together, because I don't want anyone to miss out on some of the education because they were embarrassed to say they didn't know. It's like, I want you to leave. I want everybody to leave here. If you came with the information and you didn't, I want you to both leave with my version of the right answer. I'm the instructor. I'm going to take care of you on this. And so, the ladies are a lot easier to help than the guys, because it's just because they're accepting of it. They want
me no guns.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it.
Yes,
and,
true.
Yep. So, and every year, I think we're getting. I'm going to make a little joke about this, but a little weaker as a society as men, because the men are getting more and more accepting to help. So,
not arguing.
But so it comes back to know your audience. We talked about that in the beginning. Know your audience and don't be afraid to interact with people at their level.
Absolutely.
Match the energy.
That's huge.
So we're an hour and 37 minutes in. So I'm going to say, what would you guys, any last thing you'd like to bring up or tell us?
How to get a hold of you?
Well, give me a pitch. Sell me reliable contracting or contractors.
Oh boy. Was that my elevator speech?
Yeah. Do you want to rock, paper, scissors?
Right?
Yeah. No,
you pitch, then we'll have her pitch, and we'll tell you which one's
worse. the AGT.
Say that carefully.
Exactly.
That rolled out really quick.
No, don't go there. Okay. No, Reliable Contractors. Thank you for the time here, guys. That's appreciate it. We like the great being a part of the SBR now, even though I've only been there once, I guess. But
there's time. There's time.
First time, but Rebecca's been there and helping us out, getting relationships going.
I need to come to a Thursday meeting some point when I can get away from work because I keep hearing great things about the group and you as education coordinator and just I love it. So
yeah, little unexpected twist with that one that she got into that, but she's
I
talented at that, and it's been great for her to just step into it. So
Chewable coffee.
Chewable coffee.
I told one of the guys, I go, I'm getting off topic already, off the pitch here, so I should go down this rabbit hole, but I told one of the guys today, I go, I try to avoid being that woman in the meeting that's doing the nurturing of prepping and cleaning the room and bringing, the mom.
Yeah.
I'm totally opposed to that, but then I'm like, I'm just going to cave and start bringing baked goods and my own coffee for everybody next week, so I'm going to just, get by that, and Anyhow, okay, back to pitching. Right. Yes. It's very important.
Reliable Contractors, yes.
Okay, I think the keys, like you said, our bid's our bid. We're talented. We're attention to detail. We have the experience. We can do virtually anything. We had talked about this a little bit earlier today. It's like I've done everything in Rochester from replacing a single door in a house to building an MRI suite at the Olmsted Medical Center, right? Wow. Designing and building, So it's like every range in between from $500 jobs to $2.5 million jobs to so just a ton of experience and able to translate it into a quality project for anybody who's interested in that and make sure it's, as you talked about, a good deal for them. It's on budget, it's on time, it's and the attention to details there so you get what you were looking for.
Good.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely a lot of integrity. And I always say with Reliable Contractors, build it right the first time, even if this is your first time.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Maybe you've had experience at other properties or with other contractors, but we will really, with any size project, really get to know you and work with you in your business and try to anticipate some of the twists and turns that come up during these projects. And I think that's a fun part. You get to play kind of like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys with the clients and
you're
really
dating yourself a little bit.
I know, right? That's a hardcover.
They were antiques when she read them.
Okay. Well, I had first editions when I was a kid, so I'm dating myself.
I hope you still have those. But I think that's really the pleasure of it because you're really helping, even in the commercial side, bring people's dreams to reality. And really, typically, they're in a point where they're growing or they have some type of business logistical thing that's getting them to a better spot when done the best way, especially. So I think that's really an honor to be a part of that.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said it again, build a relationship. I mean, it's, and for everybody out there, even if your dream was a Hollywood video, they could do that. They could do that if you want it.
Is that building still there? Because I want to drive by that thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it became a dental office.
Ace Hardware was for quite a while after Hollywood Video, and then now it's dental.
Yeah.
And it looks very nice. No, we didn't get that project, but it looks very nice. Good. I think maybe.
Oh, it's the one on the corner, right?
Right next to the car
right
wash
next to the
batteries plus bulbs on the.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a nice looking building. What?
It is now.
It's better. It's better.
It's better.
I think there's a little yin yang, just gender wise too. Jerry is really, really good with design and details, but also I think there's, when I look at spaces or buildings or just the layout even, there's different feel to it, sort of. And depending on how you want your business or your customer experience to flow.
That's your marketing brain working there.
Yeah, because it drives me nuts if I walk into a business and just even the flow is odd, but it's a nice, fresh renovation. It's like, okay, it looks nice, but it feels a little weird. Just there's certain details that.
See, now this goes
from
back
the customer experience side.
I should probably defend myself a little bit too, because on the Hollywood Video,
you were given a plan.
I did the plans, but you have to meet corporate guidelines because Hollywood Video is a franchise all over the country, so it had to be.
And we all know how good corporate people are at stuff. Yeah.
Well, due to my little bit younger age, I wasn't renting videos there, so from a customer standpoint, I can't speak to it. How's that?
Big square boxes are so pretty.
Yeah. Well, but too, we talk about this a lot in our discussions. Like you said, when it's a nice, clean, new build, but it doesn't flow, don't ever confuse effort for progress. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we talk about that a lot. I say that I bet I say that twice a week in just multitude of different situations where everyone's telling me how hard they worked on this, or as an employee, they'll be like, all the effort, the time, and I was like, okay, but it still sucks. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is not what we were going for. Well, you don't know how much effort I put into this. It's like, well, don't confuse effort for progress, because you can work all day long, and if it looks terrible when you're done, you should have just taken a nap. I mean, this is not progress.
Yeah.
You put a lot of effort in. I'm not saying you didn't work hard, but you didn't get done what we wanted to get done. The effort was kind of wasted. So effort and progress are two different things.
Yeah.
And kind of same thing. You put the money in contracting. You put the money in, follow the code. But if it doesn't work when you're done, yeah. So I mean, I get that. That's very cool. And when you talk about the attention to detail, style is so different. Like working with Sammy.
Yep.
We talked about business philosophy and this Korean eatery. Well, the decoration, the construction. I mean, that when I think of decorating a room, I'm thinking decorating a room, right? You hang some crap on the wall, whatever. That's window treatments. When I'm talking with Sammy,
poker stuff,
right? It's foam on the wall. That's sexy. That's but it sounds good. It sounds good in here. That's the idea. But like with Sam, when she was talking about building Bebop. That starts at your stage. That's not when she says decoration, she's talking to you. When I hear decoration, I'm thinking hanging pictures, putting a different color curtain on the, or I'd like a curtain that went to the floor. That's my idea of decoration. When she's talking about, it's like she's ready to gut that thing down to bare studs and then
rebuild it.
Right.
She's thinking lighting. She's thinking of feel. She's thinking of representation.
Right. Yeah. And that's where you guys come in on that. And and see, for me, when I'm thinking of hiring a contractor, I'm not thinking about hiring a design team. I'm thinking I need somebody to swing a hammer. I need someone to, to build a wall. I don't think of that. So for me, that comes back to education. You need to educate people. But that plays back to your point way early on. You don't have to compete with other people because you have your own clientele. And that is such an advantage because all of a sudden education is a lot easier when you're not trying to educate the masses.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully SBR Group can help widen that contact sphere a little bit and keep it manageable at the same time. Because if you scale it too fast, your clients don't understand you.
Or you can fall short.
Yeah, or you can fall short.
I mean, you cannot meet the expectation.
Yeah, if you sell $1 million worth of work and only have 2 hammers, that's hard. So, yeah,
awesome.
Are you ready?
I think we're ready.
All right. Well, any final parting words?
It's been an absolute honor to get to know this group, and thank you for hosting us. Look forward to getting to know you more.
Thanks for coming in.
And I'm just going to brag. I never thought I'd own a forklift in my life. But I never owned a forklift. So I have to throw
Lucky
that out
girl.
That's when I was like, wow, this is happening. This happened.
We're gonna have to put that somewhere. I know you've made it.
What do you own a forklift?
And I think mine was the first one. First time in my adult life I've owned a log chain, and that was like a man thing. That I'm like, how have I not ever owned a log chain before?
You guys are so on your way. It's crazy. Log chains and forklifts.
We get excited over everything.
That's awesome. Well, it was great having you guys. And I apologize for me being a few minutes late tonight. So to my own podcast.
You got to chat with your other half, who's lovely.
Good. Yes, she is a sweetheart. Better than I deserve, and I tell her that quite often. So
that's for damn sure.
I do. I always tell her. She laughs every time I say this, so I keep saying it until she doesn't laugh. Then I'll be worried.
Right.
But so I said, sweetheart, I know you can do better. Just don't.
I love it. Humor is the secret to all that stuff. I love it.
Great. Well, everybody, again, Rebecca and Jerry from Reliable Contractors, Rochester, Minnesota. If you got to the end, they're the people to talk to. So till next time, would you guys come back and do this again sometime?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Signing off, guys. Have a great night.